Hello and welcome to Talking Tent, a brand new podcast about movies, TV, and all the content we can possibly consume.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Irma.
We are a married couple whose love of TV and movies cannot be contained, so we've decided to share our thoughts, opinions, cheers, and occasional jeers with the world. On this episode, we're going heavy on some television. We caught up on 2 movies that are currently on Netflix, but first, we're starting, as we always do, with some hot goss industry talk. So coming off the heels of our last conversation where we kind of trashed on Ant-Man, the internet also did, most people at least, it seems like Marvel is reacting, and there have been rumors that they're pushing a lot of the television that we had actually talked about on a previous episode. I think there was at one point supposed to be 5 different Marvel TV shows happening within the calendar year 2023. And now it sounds like they might be pushing the less important ones out to 2024 and only hitting us up with Loki season 2 and the Secret Invasion, which I think both of those are kind of essential in moving the story forward, so they can't drop those. The other ones, I think they're just reacting to maybe a little Marvel fatigue, slowing it down, letting the creators make something good instead of pushing out product that feels half-baked and underwhelming.
And also, I think this is a good idea. I think they were going full speed. I know when Bob Iger came back and took over CEO at Disney, he was pretty much like, we need to slow down. And everyone has always been complaining about like the CGI, it never looking finished. So I think this will give people or creators and these developers more time to work on the graphics. And I mean, they pushed back even the Marvels. It was supposed to come out in July. It was pushed back to November. I think same thing. They pushed it back to work on it a little longer, get the CGI right. I mean, honestly, like, I know people are going to say like, what do they think they're doing? But I think it's a good thing. Like, I want it to be good. Like, however long it takes for them to make sure that they have all the kinks out of it, like, that's fine by me.
Agreed. It's much like the video game industry these days have been hit by huge amounts of delays because of the pandemic and everything and work shortages. But I'm saying I don't care. There's plenty of content to keep me going, as seen on this podcast, an overwhelming amount of things to talk about. Make the product good. Take your time.
Yeah.
The Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed a bunch of times, a video game. And then there was such an uproar of all the delays that eventually they just put it out and it wasn't done. And it took them another year of patches to get it to like a good state.
That's so weird.
So just take your time, Marvel.
The fans have way too much sway, I think.
I agree. Well, this time it kind of worked because now they're saying slow it down. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see if they actually follow through with all this.
No, I think they are. I think that's been set already. All right. So another big thing that was this weekend, or should I say 2 big things that were this weekend, were the SAG Awards and the PGA Awards. At the SAG Awards, I watched it on YouTube, Netflix for YouTube. I believe next year it will actually be on Netflix, but they couldn't figure out how to do the live component yet.
Yeah, I think they're actually, the first live Netflix thing is coming and it's Chris Rock's special.
Right.
So after that, they'll have the infrastructure to potentially stream whatever they want.
Yeah. And I've always liked the SAG Awards. I find it really funny. I mean, it's extremely self-indulgent. They're all patting each other on the back. They're all saying, you know, like their stories of becoming like a working actor and all of their stories. And I don't know, about getting that one audition, and it's just all the same. But I do honestly love it. Like, and they all looked great. Zendaya looked amazing.
Always.
The big winners, obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once. They won for ensemble. They won for supporting actress from Jamie Lee Curtis, supporting actor with Kiwi Kwan, lead actress with Michelle Yeoh, which is a huge one. And then another kind of surprise was lead actor was Brendan Fraser.
So he's back in the mix. I was wrong last week. Maybe the British just love Austin Butler. So I guess it really is all 3 of them.
And also, this is just the actors. Like, the actors are the only people voting for this. This is really like, they all were saying it like, this is like awarded by our peers. It means so much more. So it's really nice.
So maybe actors like Brendan Fraser's overacting.
Yeah, maybe. I
which
don't
is
know.
a classic
Well, it's always
award.
kind of like, oh, they understand how much work it is to
True.
get into those prosthetics and like all of that. They're like, oh, we feel for you.
And again, I really like The Whale.
I know you
I'm
do.
for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like that might be the only race that's not just set out of the big five.
Yes. Well, I feel like, I don't know. Who knows about lead actress? I mean, I obviously really, really want Michelle Yeoh to
I
win
think
it,
it's going to
but
happen.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, Kate Blanchett has really been cleaning up, so I really want Michelle Yeoh to win. I have to say, with Michelle Yeoh, she was wearing this like really fun dress, and it had like this like crepe paper or something all running up the center of it. So when she was like giving her speech, it was rubbing against
Oh,
the
no.
microphone. Yeah, and I was just like step back. Like it was just like really bothering me because I didn't want her moment to be overshadowed by this like muffly noise that was like coming on the microphone. I don't know. I just found it like slightly annoying, but I don't know. And then at the PGA Awards, which actually were yesterday, so
Yeah,
that
on a
was
Monday.
Monday. I'm sorry.
I guess that one's kind of the DJs and the PGAs don't have the biggest
Well, I don't think
audience
they're.
draw.
Yeah, I
right?
don't think they're televised. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but the PGA Awards. So Everything Everywhere won for movies. So I think that's kind of set now.
Yeah, I'd say lock it down. Everything Everywhere All at Once is winning Best Picture
Yeah.
at the Oscars this year,
I've
which
said
is
that for a while.
fun.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I'm so happy about it.
We're getting a weird sci-fi genre flick. Great.
About like an older woman, like I don't know, just seems amazing.
And I saw a news item came across my feed earlier today, and I was like, oh boy, I think I got to talk about this because I had already talked about on a previous episode our TV we're looking forward to the most. That The Weeknd is making a TV show with Sam Levinson for HBO. Now I'm seeing that he's also making a movie with Trey Edward Schultz, who did Waves and Krisha. So a kind of serious indie director on his way up. And then The Weeknd boosting that big time. So we're really going to find out if he can translate. Both of these are his stories, also his ideas. It's not, and he's acting. So I'm just interested. I really love The Weeknd. Last year's music roundup, The Weeknd was my top guy. So I'm excited to see what he could do outside of music. And hopefully he sings at one point in either of these things. Now we're slipping on our comfies, hopping on the couch and talking TV.
Heavy TV this week. We watched a lot of TV shows. Let's start where we always do with Last of Us. I thought this was a really good episode. We get to see Ellie's background a bit more, helped us understand why she is the way she is. Gives a good callback to the Mortal Kombat game that we see her play around with in the second episode. We get that, like...
We do?
Yeah, remember when they go to that convenience store where Joel, like, hides his gun? And then there's a Mortal Kombat game, like, in the corner. And she's like, oh, I love this game. And then at the time, I'm like, how does she know what Mortal Kombat is? But remember when she goes down and she gets the tampons in the basement?
Yep.
And then the joke book that she always carries around with her, the puns. So we get to see why that's so important to her. And then later on in the episode, after we get these flashbacks, we see her with Joel again. And like when she goes upstairs, like you see her slowly like debating on leaving Joel, like because he tells her, leave, go back to Tommy. And she thinks about it. But then she realizes after we see the flashback with Storm Reed, she remembers that she says that we need to fight to the bitter end. So then she starts ransacking the house, finds a needle and thread, and tries sewing up Joel. And in the moment, I was kind of like, doesn't she need to like clean that? But whatever.
Do the
it's
best
a
you
show.
can, right?
I know.
It's not like she could find some peroxide or whatever. Also, an homage, I imagine. I can't imagine they made a zombie show and had scenes in a mall and weren't aware of a homage to Dawn of the Dead, classic zombie movie that takes place in a mall.
Yeah, I thought this episode was really good.
Yeah, it gave us a little more context to Ellie, a little more explanation on the things that she has lost. We know about Joel's loss. And then Ellie, we see as just a girl that grew up in this QZ. And this gave us context that she had no family. She had a best friend,
lover
who left her, came back, then left her again for real. I'm interested if they're ever going to show us the next day or two after they finish the Riley and Ellie story. They just leave us after getting bit. I'm interested to see when Ellie realizes that she's not going to die.
Yeah.
And how she reacts to that. Imagine a disease that you've seen kill literally everybody in the whole world that's ever been bit. And then you get bit and you're fine. That must be crazy. And then I'd also like to see how how long do they actually sit there? And when does Riley turn? And what does she do about it? Or is Riley alive as a mushroom? And because like, what are the odds that she had the gall or the fortitude at that time to kill her best friend? You know, we've seen it develop more later now that she's been with Joel and she was able to save him and save herself. But at that point, I can't imagine that she killed Riley. So maybe she's running around somewhere and we're actually going to run into her as a mushroom.
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, I mean they're very,
but...
very. I guess at this point they're very, very far.
Yeah,
from
I don't think they're going
so
back to Boston.
Not.
But I am interested to see, like, do the Fireflies just show up the next day wanting to take the friend? You know what I mean? And then find Ellie's character and realize she's immune, I guess. So yeah.
Well, true, because it was the Fireflies that knew that she was immune. So at one point she goes to them.
Yeah. Let's move on to Poker Face. I thought this was a really interesting episode, a bit dicey, I would say. Written and directed by Natasha Lyonne. It's about Arthur, or Art, is a guilt-ridden over the death of an actress he directed on his first movie.
Nick Nolte.
Yes, Nick Nolte.
Doing
oh my
a classic, very difficult to understand his voice.
Well, I think him and Natasha did like a rasp off.
Yeah, I was doing impressions while we were watching it.
Yeah, well, your Natasha Lyonne, I think, is even more New York than hers.
Yeah, probably. I got to hear it again, though. I can't just do it off the cuff.
This woman, Laura, is the head of a studio called LAM. And she is actually the reason why this woman dies 40 years ago. So does this episode have a deeper meaning? It's hard to really say. I mean, it has parallels because I don't know if maybe this was just like us picking it up, but like LAM sounds a lot like ILM, which is George Lucas's real life company. And then is Laura stand-in for Kathleen Kennedy? I don't know. I mean, they were longtime collaborators and Kathleen Kennedy produced a lot of George Lucas's films. I mean, I wouldn't say this is by any means like true. There's no reason to think like Kathleen Kennedy has killed 2 people or 3 people, let's say. It's just kind of an interesting thing that like, why was it so close to ILM and everything? So hard
to deny Rian Johnson at least referencing it, if not putting it right on the nose that he hates Kathleen Kennedy and potentially George Lucas, or holds a grudge.
Holds a grudge, maybe.
Thinks she's a bit of a entitled person that's, I don't know, killing the creativity of real artists.
I know. In the episode, what was it? Arthur said like, "Oh, those I don't want to do CGI superheroes and like space epics and stuff." Something like that. And it was just like, okay, this is a bit on the nose.
Yeah, but I mean, Rian Johnson did do CGI space epic, so
yeah,
maybe it's like both things for him. He's grappling with his emotions, and this was a character he thought of building around. It kind of reminded me of on this season of Atlanta when they do the Tyler Perry episode.
Oh, right.
Which is just, that one is a straight evisceration.
Yeah, that was bad.
Of Tyler Perry. And I don't know enough about Tyler Perry to understand what's true or not, but it felt like Donald Glover hates him. This wasn't as straight on the nose, like basically saying this is Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, well,
she's a murderer. But
I feel like if you didn't like know about like ILM and George Lucas's company, you may not have picked up on that.
Yeah, much more subtle.
Yeah. Definitely.
Literally using an impression of Tyler Perry's voice to do the character.
Oh my god,
that was a wild one. I still don't even. I want to know more. About that Atlanta episode.
Like if there was any fallout. Like I wonder if there's any fallout from this episode. I mean,
we've caught all the way up on Hello Tomorrow, which is the new Apple TV show starring Billy Crudup It is that I don't know if there's a word. Do you know if there's a word like the retro future, like 50s future? So like cyberpunk is like 20s future.
Yeah.
But is there a word for the 50s
I think it's just like
future? Retro
retrofuturism.
future. So it takes place in this world where the veneer is 50s. So it's like those old swooping bulbous cars, you know, the white picket fences
Mhm.
and all of that, like Pleasantville-esque. But then there's all of this technology that obviously didn't exist at the time, robots and video conferencing and AI type stuff. And it's basically about Billy Crudup is a salesman and he's selling homes on the moon. And he has a team of salespeople. And by the end of the first episode, we learn that there are no homes on the moon and the whole thing is a con. And it's slowly unraveling from there. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's something there. The story is there. I don't know if it needed to be, I'm assuming it's 10 episodes. Maybe it's only 8. But we know about the con now. And we know it simply has to come out. It has to unravel. And so we're just kind of waiting for that to happen. And there's been subtle steps towards it unraveling. A few people are starting to see the cracks in Billy Crudup's story. But then to make it extend out enough to be a real sitcom, there's just not enough going on. The side characters haven't been developed enough.
Yeah.
It's not quite funny enough, but then it's
Definitely
not quite
not funny
dramatic enough.
And also like the 50s style of acting, like I just don't really love that. Like it's just like not like overacting, but it's very like it's a
Mhm.
specific style that they have to stay within and I'm just like I don't know. I just can't get into it.
Yeah, WandaVision did it better, but that was only
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes and then they moved on to the next decade.
Yeah.
I also noticed so I think they're releasing 2 episodes each week now.
Hmm.
And both of these episodes were us just stuck in that hotel. I assume
Yeah.
for budgetary reasons, but it starts to get a little stale.
It really does.
I'm gonna keep watching it. I'm not sure I recommend it, but I think there is something there. There's a story there, and I think a meltdown is imminent, but we'll see how deep they go with it.
Maybe we'll give like a recap at the end of when we've seen every episode. I don't think we'll talk about it next week, but we'll keep watching it just to see where it goes, I guess. I mean, it has Billy Crudup. I don't mind looking at him. So.
He's a handsome guy. Party Down came back this week, the long-awaited reunion. Starz is putting a lot into this, which I think is interesting. I'm here for it. I'm just wondering if this show is actually the draw that they're hoping it is. They changed the logo of their app. They put the pink bow tie on the app logo. They've been promoting all of these deals to get like 6 months for $20, thinking that just this show is going to get them subscribers. Because Starz is not the biggest draw. I don't know if that's going to work. I think it's interesting to put so much behind this one little show that I bet not that many people watched when it was first out, which is why it got canceled after 2 seasons. Now all of the stars have gotten much more famous and now they're back.
Yeah, and I don't know if this first episode was even really that good, if I'm being completely honest.
I thought it was good. I feel like it's hard for you because you didn't watch the first 2 seasons. It's like watching an episode in season 4 of a sitcom that you've never watched.
Yeah, but I was just like, it was strange. It was like you were saying about the Hello Tomorrow, that they were in a hotel. They were literally in just one room this whole episode.
Yeah, that's the show.
Okay.
They cater. They do one catering party.
Yeah.
Every episode. So.
All right. I guess I just don't get it.
The whole reunion, the whole team is back. Ken Moreno, still hilarious. They address the time jump. So basically all of the characters except Ken Moreno and Martin Starr are doing something else. And they come back for a movie premiere for one of the old waiters. And things unravel from there. Then they address COVID and how that would literally destroy every catering company in the world.
Yeah.
So this episode is actually kind of a reintroduction and a reset of the whole situation. And they use COVID to do that reset of how he's going to build this company back up from him living in the van, Ken Moreno, the owner. So we'll see. I think it was a good reintroduction because they had to do a lot in one episode
I guess
to bring it back. So now that they've done that, they could kind of just hop back into okay, what's the next party? What are the fun goofs we can do?
Yeah. Okay, so now we're up to my reality TV competition corner or food corner. So one of my favorite shows is back. It's called Tournament of Champions. It's on the Food Network. So essentially, I think that's like its 4th season. It's Guy Fieri. He's the host, and he has a bunch of friends, I would say. Like, he is just very well connected. He just seems very well liked in the industry. And so
Who doesn't like Guy
I know,
Fieri?
it's true. I feel like everyone loves him.
I love him. Always
so
have.
basically, he put together a bracket style tournament of very popular chefs ranging from Top Chef, Chopped, Iron Chef, Guy's Grocery Games, and I'm sure there's a ton more that I'm missing. And they compete in head-to-head style competitions to be the last chef standing. And it's usually comes out in March around what is happening right now? The
March Madness.
Yeah, March Madness
is kicking off. So it starts before it, then it overlaps it because it's so long now.
But I love a good bracket style tournament. I feel like that's really fun, and it really makes it feel like you are getting to the best chef when this is all over.
Yeah, they try to add some legitimacy. I feel like a lot of the Food Network competition shows, especially other ones that Guy does, like Guy's Grocery Games.
Yeah, and Chopped.
It's not exactly like the most serious. It's also one set of people a week. So at this point, Chopped is on season 40 something.
Yeah.
So they've blown through thousands of chefs. It's all obviously still like an honor to win. I would love to be on it and win. But they're trying to add a little more gravitas.
Well, I think by adding the Top Chef people in, like,
yes.
I'm always excited when I see a Top Chef person because I like.
And I was about to say that previously with Food Network shows, like even Iron Chef or the Beat Bobby Flays and all the other Bobby Flay competitions, if there was somebody from Top Chef, they would never mention it.
Yeah.
They would never say
talk
the
about it.
competitor's name. And now it is a distinguished title that they're just like, we have to, in order to get people to take us seriously, we have to acknowledge the most serious cooking.
And I think it's kind of amazing that they're all just like, hey, we're all here together. Let's do this. And they all seem really proud and like excited to be there competing. So
yeah, it works. It's 2 hours though every Sunday.
I know.
So they do
because they do a lot. Yeah, they do a lot.
4 battles in one episode. But it's fine. You fast forward through a bunch of it. Put it on your DVR.
So the last TV show I want to talk about is called Point Break. It's a
not the movie.
It's a surfing, I guess, competition similar to Drive to Survive, which is on Netflix. So it gives you a behind the scenes look at the best surfers in the world as they compete in the WSL World Surfing League to become the best surfer in the world, essentially. So this is its 2nd season on Apple Plus. And yeah, it's really good. I mean, you really like learn. It's like it really gets in depth into these surfers' lives and their backgrounds and how badly they want to win. I just find it really amazing. I want to say they compete in like 12 competitions. They go around the world. I mean, they're in Hawaii, California, Australia, South Africa, Tahiti. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a million other places that I'm leaving out, but it's so cool. And honestly, it's just like amazing to watch. Like these people are so good. My only gripe with the show is that, so Zach knows, like, I have a hard time understanding people with British accents. But then after watching the show, I have found an accent that's even harder to understand. I mean, they're still speaking English, but I just can't understand the Australian accent. Maybe it's the Surfer Bros is like maybe a different level, but I don't know. I just was having such a hard time.
You don't like the Aussies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you have to put on the subtitles?
No. Cause I was like passively watching, but I was when they were like competing, and then I was like really watching, and they don't really talk during that. But I just find it like really fun and it's cool. Cool to watch.
I was away for a few days. Irma burned through the whole thing in 2.5 days. It did seem interesting. The Drive to Survive F1 series that's on Netflix, and now they made a golf one, same producers.
Yeah.
So it's about the PGA Tour. You know, those guys, they're all millionaires, so there's something nice, I imagine.
Yeah, these people like are struggling. Like this is their job.
It's their job, but it's not. They don't have the glory of like an F1 racer that's making hundreds of millions of
Yeah, they
dollars.
definitely don't have
It's
that.
almost like dancers. So we used to love or
That's
still
true.
love. So you think you can dance, and it feels like a passion
Yeah.
that yes, you can turn into a profession, but you're not getting rich and famous.
Well,
off
also
of
with
it.
like
some
the
of them,
F1
some of them, but not
team,
many.
like you are on a team. You know what I mean? The F1 drivers, you're on like.
Yeah, the teams things with F1 is weird though because they all hate each other.
I know it is weird, but like for the surfers, like they're by themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and especially like, yeah, it sounds amazing to travel to all these countries, but there's some people who like are away from their families and they really struggle with it. And I don't know. I find it really compelling. All right, so it's time for date night. We watched The Woman King and All Quiet on the Western Front. Let's talk about The Woman King first. What'd
Let's
you think?
talk about Woman King. It was so good.
It was so good.
Shockingly good. I had heard it was good.
Yeah.
And we had put it off. I don't know why. I do know why. I'll admit it. I don't love Viola Davis. In the past, I think she goes a little bit over the top with everything. Even her Oscar speeches feel like it's the most important thing that's ever happened. Her snot crying. I had a friend that used to hate Sean Penn because he would always scream that he overacts and he wouldn't see anything. And this was through like the Milk and Mystic River days when Sean Penn was the hottest thing there was. And he hated it. I don't hate Viola Davis like he hated Sean Penn, but I was like reticent to watch this movie because of that. And I was like, Viola Davis just doesn't do it for me. And I was wrong. This movie is so good. And what's weird is she gives, I think, her most subtle performance, even though she's playing the most powerful character she's ever played.
Yeah. So this is directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. So she's been directing for a very long time. I want to say one of her notable directorial debuts was Love and Basketball, which I think you love or your sister loves.
My sister loves it. That Maxwell song, will always remember that.
Yeah. So it's just like amazing that she got this opportunity. I mean, this was also a low budget movie, quote unquote. I mean, it was only $50 million, which is kind of technically a low budget movie. And it didn't look it at all. It was beautiful to look at. Some of the shots were crazy. Like I want to say like the opening shots of the grass and then all of a sudden Viola Davis pops out and then the rest of the women pop out and it's so dark, but it's so like there's so much depth to it. It was beautiful. And then they just kick some butt. And I have to say, it was also so colorful. Everything that they're wearing to the city where they train, it was just beautiful.
I'm going to say film more things in Africa because I think assuming they filmed on location, you can compare this movie to a Gladiator, a Game of Thrones.
Which I think a lot of people are. Yeah.
Kind of, it's a war epic.
Yeah.
The big difference, and even The Northman, which I loved, all of these things take place in dreary old England.
I know.
And everything is gray. The armor is silver.
It's true.
Everything is like dreary and dark, which is fine. I mean, it works for
and
certain.
These melodramatic men.
Yeah. So, and then this one is just in Africa. It's full of color. The buildings are red and blue and yellow. Their clothing is beautiful. The lush greenery,
Yeah.
it really pops. And then, like Irma said, the action is fantastic. The hand-to-hand combat, I'm a sucker for a bow, a classic Donatello boy over here. And one of the characters rocks a spear, but she uses it as a bow often, just wrapping it around herself and flicking it. And at one point, the main character, Nawe, is using, I forget even the name of the weapon, but when there's like a blade on the end of a rope and just eviscerating guys,
Yeah.
It was really violent. It was really good.
If there was any, I didn't notice it. Like if there was any CGI, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of this was done practically. I just think it was so amazing. I mean, I'm sure they had to have some CGI.
Yeah, certainly. Some of the blood splatters and stuff, I'm
but
sure
like
they
it still looked unbelievable, like super visceral. I really felt like I was there, like in this combat, like fighting it out.
We've seen a lot of gun war
That's true.
at this point, and there's only a few where it still harkens back to the sword and stone days, which I just always find way more compelling for a movie, at least when you're watching it. It's hard to watch just people shooting at each other. There's less skill, so it just feels like a worse. And then you have actual sword play and wrestling and
Right, because this
fist
also
fighting.
took place, like, I want to say it was like at the beginning of the 1800s. So that also plays like a part in it because there were guns. Some of the people had guns. I think it was like the men, but the women were the ones who did the hand-to-hand combat, and they were just like unbelievable. I cried several times during this movie. It's a war epic, but it's also kind of a romance. It's also kind of a coming-of-age story. It's female empowerment. Like, I felt so seen by this movie, even though I could never do any of that stuff that they were doing. Yeah, and I just love also that it ended kind of on a positive note. There was like a hopefulness at the end of it. I just thought it was really, really great.
Recently, we've been talking about, and again in reference to Marvel, is kind of these undercooked, half-baked movies. Woman King is just a perfect example of how to develop a compelling narrative and build the stakes and introduce the villain, then introduce a larger reason why we hate him, then introduce another piece of why we love the main character and give her even more motivation, and just build side characters that are funny. Lashana Lynch and
It's
the
so
other
good.
woman,
Oh my
the
God, I
tall,
loved her.
skinny one,
Yeah, yeah.
they were both funny at some points.
Yeah, they were great.
And then they were also brutal. They were awesome. We cared about them. We knew them.
Yeah.
We could see them. We could see their emotions. I didn't realize, I looked it up, who Izogi is kind of the muscle. She's like the heavy character.
Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. I looked up who she was. I was like, oh my God, it's Rambeau from the Marvels. We were discussing last week about who is going to be these Avengers, and when they team up and have a big team, it's all little girls, a lot of little girls or very young people. And I feel like if anyone at Marvel is watching Woman King, they have to know that Lashana Lynch can carry the weight and feel intimidating and be the new kind of heavy, like the Captain America or Iron Man, the gravitas. I'm convinced. So I hope that they give her that opportunity. And
yeah. I love her. I find her so compelling in whatever she's in. And we should also say that this is not based on true events, but it's definitely based on like a true society. Like, these people were real. I know there have been issues about like, this isn't how it happened. This isn't factually correct. And that's nothing like I can talk about. Also, like in Marvel, the Dora Milaje in Black Panther, they're based on these women, which I find really cool. And then the last thing I wanted to say is John Boyega. He's definitely not a main character in this, but God, when he shows up, he looks so good. He's just sitting on his throne in these like unbelievably beautiful silks, so colorful, and it's just like slightly opened, and he has this like austere face, and he's just like staring at you, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's just unbelievable, so good.
he does the classic king character that's not actually doing anything
Exactly.
and doesn't deserve the standing.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of movies where they go way over the top and they're like a gluttonous fool.
Yeah.
In this case, he definitely hints at that, but is still very austere and honorable, but in a winking way.
Well, he also has like 9 wives, and then when he like goes down to greet them all, he's like, my love, my love, my love, my love. It's just like funny. I don't know, but of course he's being serious, and I just like love that about it. But
so if you can talk about how you liked how he looked, I ain't mad about looking at all these jacked, beautiful women.
They were unbelievable.
They were so fit, just looking great. The abs were popping.
They really were.
It had to be again an homage to when 300 came out, however many years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And all the talk was about oiled up boys with perfect abs.
Yeah.
They definitely oiled up these women.
They were so oiled.
Maybe for practical reasons, to be more difficult to grab.
I think that's part of it. Yep.
But also to make all those features and the abs pop and their muscles, their arms, their shoulders, just looking great, kicking ass. Highly recommend. It was so good. And it's on Netflix now. I can't believe it hasn't been on Netflix prior to this. I think it came out like last week on Netflix. It should have been way earlier.
Yeah, it really should have been.
It should have been nominated. I don't judge everything about what will and isn't nominated for Oscars, but you get Triangle of Sadness out of here and you pop in Woman King.
I agree
and
with
you got
that.
yourself something. Come on. It was so good.
This was so good. And they also made a lot of money in the box office. And a lot of times these type of movies don't. And I find that so exciting. So I hope we get to see a lot more of these type of movies.
And then we watched All Quiet on the Western Front. And
Did you
boy,
like this
is
movie?
it a different vibe.
Did I like this movie? Can I just say? I did not.
I imagine you did not. So Woman King is serious. It's action packed. It gets sad, but it is entertaining through and through. You feel pumped like those classic action war epic movies. Like I said, they build you to really care. All Quiet on the Western Front is not entertaining, but I think it was good.
Yeah, well, it was definitely like really good. Like as far as like war movie goes, like it was great. I mean, there were some beautiful shots. Like you could tell like all of the care that went into creating all of this. It honestly just boggles my mind. All of the feels, the battlements. I mean, I know it had to be like some CGI, obviously, but it just felt all so real. And there was a part in the movie where like the main character, he has like mud caked on his face. And I've never felt like it just felt so real. It was brutal.
They let you sit in a lot of
really
those moments.
do. They really do. Yeah, it was hard.
It's really hard. It is the bleakest and most brutal war movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The whole time I was just thinking brutality.
Yeah. And I think that's what they wanted to get across. That
absolutely. War
is not, because in the beginning, we should say, so it's about, I don't even know, like 4 friends that are excited to fight for Germany in World War I. Think about the glory. They're like, we're going to France. We're going to Paris. All excited. And then I would say like within an hour of getting there, they're like, their dreams are shattered. They're like, oh, this is not the glory we thought it was. It's just brutal from there out. It's awful.
So Saving Private Ryan, the storming the beach scene, gets a lot of glory about showing the reality of how violent and horrible war can be. Then it moves on and kind of builds character and builds hero and builds a story arc. All Quiet on the Western Front sits in the brutality and violence and heinousness of war for 2.5 hours. And you just soak it up and it gets worse and worse. They don't shy away from anything. So many corpses.
Yeah.
No break from the death.
There's breaks. They show like the generals, like with their fancy meals, like they cut back as like the people on the front are just like struggling to live and like the shitty food that they're eating. And then it'll cut to a general in his fancy mansion with his like beautiful meal. And he like throws the wine to the ground and then like it cuts back to the war effort.
A definite intentional juxtapositions of showing the horrible trenches where they're just living in squalor in the blood of their friends, and then cutting to the men that are making the decisions for these children to be out there without a care of their humanity and just wanting to win. Germany, both of them, Germany and France, they show leaders from both sides. They don't care about the people. Even when they get to armistice and they get to peace, there's so much arm wringing about when and the terms they use. The German guy won't say surrender. He'll say a ceasefire, and the French won't listen to him until they say armistice or surrender.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's a vicious, brutal indictment of prideful men and their stubborn need to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like the meaningless massacre, all of the sacrifice that these kids are going through, it's meaningless.
During the scenes of battle, I found it like so confusing and chaotic. They would run to a battlement and then essentially they would like fight back. At the end of the movie, it says like they fought 4 years over 200 meters of ground and lost all of this ground. So they were just like fighting for nothing essentially. Like, and 17 million people died. And it's just like, the way it was shot, it was like meant to be so disorienting. Like you don't know which way you're supposed to go because you don't know who's friend or foe. And
I actually hadn't read the book or seen the old movie, so I didn't know the actual plot beats. It was devastating. There were no heroes. That's what I kind of liked about it. It didn't turn war into anything victorious or meaningful. It didn't give us a hero. It didn't
yeah,
give us victory. It just showed death and devastation and the loss of life for no reason.
I
And
mean,
I think that's still we're still doing this.
yeah, we
And I
are.
mean, that's not a new story. Like they were, Woman King is 200 years earlier, and there were wars thousands of years earlier. This one is 100 years ago, and we're still sending boys and girls off to fight wars for people sitting in beautiful buildings thousands of miles away to say they won. I don't know. Obviously, it gets a little deeper on the geopolitical reasonings and other reasons why people go to war. But when you start looking at these stories, it's like, what are we doing this for? And obviously, easier to say from our comfortable perspective, obviously acknowledging that. But you can't watch this movie and read the book. I stood at near the end of the movie. I was like, they got to show this in schools. I was like, oh, they have been.
Yeah, they
But
definitely have been.
this one at least is more updated. So updated
Wait,
graphics
you think
and
they
stuff.
could show this? Like, what
Yeah, it's
rating is
real.
this?
Oh, R for sure.
Yeah,
But
like
in high
it's
school, I mean, it's real though. That like it's not.
that's the thing. Like they show some stuff, and woof, it's hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard to watch. I mean, yes, it's definitely show it in school. Sure, I don't. I feel like I would have been scarred if I
Good.
watched this.
Good. I mean, I don't know. We
Yeah.
already know. But there's still people that are just meaningless violence for nothing. It brought me down.
Absolutely, yeah, it brought me
guess-
down. This is why I haven't been wanting to watch it.
Yeah. Well, you were
Um,
just scared that it was just another World War One
I mean, it
movie.
kind of was.
I know, but it was so much more brutal than
Yeah.
we thought. It was like 1918 or was it
Mhm.
1917
1917.
from a few years ago. Similar story, like World War One.
Yeah, and the
from
kid
the
kind
other-
of looks the same.
Yeah, they even did the running and get. I wonder if he did it on purpose. Honestly, this one he did the running at the camera, bomb explosion, bang off to the right. That was in every commercial for 1917.
yeah.
And I imagine again more homage of being aware of what this is about,
Yeah.
showing the truth about how that works. It's not a heroic moment. It is a terrifying moment,
Yeah.
and where everybody around you and everyone you know is getting killed, and you're running for your life, and it's basically the same shot. There's no way he didn't know that and do it on purpose.
Yeah. Probably.
But again, yeah, that movie gave us a hero. It gave us something to root for. Yes, we're rooting for the main character in this movie to live, but that's just a base human understanding of what we want out of someone we know. Is like, I don't want you to die,
Yeah.
but that's it. It doesn't give him.
But it's kind of funny, like, we don't want him to die, but I don't even think he cares about if he lives or dies.
Right. They get, apparently in the book, it gets even deeper into
Yeah.
the emotional and future scarring of these people that
Well,
are living
they
with death.
say that in the movie.
Yeah.
One of his friends is kind of like, is it better to live or to die? Like, basically, like, the friends, if they've lost, like, they're in peace. Like, we're going to be living with these scars for the rest of our lives. And I don't think that's any better. And it's, yeah, like, it's just like a terrifying thought, you know, like they're going to be haunted by all of this for the rest of their lives. And
Yeah. Another character at one point, kind of the lightest moment of the movie is he brings a letter that his wife wrote him to the main character who can read. So I guess this guy can't read.
yeah, he says that. Yeah.
And he brings it to the main character. And as the camera pans down just a little bit, we understand that they're both pooping. It's like it looks like a bench, but there's holes in it. So, it's a makeshift toilet stand, which is, it's a fun little thing. But then the letter is from his wife talking about their dead child. And then the guy says to the main character, I'm not sure if my vision for the future is going home and being happy. And he thinks about like, can I just stay with you guys? And he lists off a few of the other soldiers that are with them, because he knows that nobody that is not there will ever be able to understand.
I mean, this is like, yeah, still like it's
classic
PTSD. Yeah,
and,
it's just
and just not being able to come back into civilization. And I imagine I imagine it's pretty horrible, if not worse, now that we're just so separated. At least in that war, everyone was like the whole world was kind of aware and
yeah.
involved and in shambles when they came back in a way. Although then it went to the Roaring Twenties. But now I don't know. I can just kind of shut it off and not know what's happening in the Middle East right now. And
I
then they come
know.
back to us and we're just on Twitter, TikTok, and talking about movies on a podcast.
You're making me
I
depressed.
know this. It made me think
Ay.
about all this stuff, and that's why it's good. It was
I know,
not
I know, I
entertaining.
know.
It was not entertaining.
No, I mean it was good. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the filmmaking was great. Like, I see why it's winning all these awards, and it will definitely win Best International Feature. I mean, it gets you really to think. I mean, just understand, like, it's a brutal watch.
Yeah, it does not shy away at all from the brutality of war.
Yeah,
And I think more things that are about war need to do that.
yeah.
But now that we're all depressed, that's it for this week. I hope now everybody, well, if you watched All Quiet or we convinced you to,
I don't know if we did a good job doing that.
I would say
but
definitely do. Still, just understand you might have to go for a little walk after, and that's
yeah,
okay.
we paused it a couple times. Like, I think we needed to, just to clear our heads and then keep watching. I mean, we watched it all the way through, but
Next week, another big one.
stacked week. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
A
We have
little less
Survivor
things.
coming back. Survivor 44, I think it is.
This week, we blasted through a lot of stuff. We're
Yeah.
getting a little more concentrated. Next week, the big one, Mando, baby.
Mando, Baby Groot. No, wait, what's
Mandalorian.
his name? Grogu. I said Baby Groot.
You said
Grogu.
baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Mandalorian season 3 comes back. Survivor season 44 comes back. Irma's pumped for it. We're
I'm
having
very
friends over.
excited.
We drafted our fantasy teams already.
I know.
We use ChatGPT to pick them. And then on Monday, I'm going to be away all weekend, or we probably would have done it earlier. On Monday, we're going to our beloved AMC Dolby Theater. Still looking for that sponsorship. Tell everybody you know to see Creed 3.
Woo, 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 woo.
Ooh, I'm excited. Jonathan Majors, please bring me back to having faith in you, my man. I think he will. I've heard a few people that have seen it say that he is very good in it.
I'm sure.
And
I have no doubt.
I'm excited for him to be grappling for real against Michael B. Jordan's character. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
If it's anything like the first two, let's see what Michael B. Jordan could do behind the camera.
Yeah.
Can he do what Coogler did with the first one? We'll see.
So that's a big week. Double Pedro Pascal next week. I can't wait.
Oh my God. Double Pedro Pascal, double Jonathan Majors. Maybe we need to get a few more stars.
So many daddies.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you so much for Craig for the production assistance. Thank you to John Welsh for our intro and outro music.
Subscribe so you know every time we post an episode. If you're listening regularly and you love us and you can't get enough, feel free to tell the internet on reviews or on Twitter or on Facebook. Follow us at Talkin Tent on all the social medias. I believe I will be launching a TikTok as well. We may or may not have recorded some of these bits that are going to be on the internet for people to see my face. We'll see how
Not
that
my
goes.
face. Not my face.
Next week, maybe we'll turn that camera around. Email us at talkintent@gmail.com with any questions, comments, thoughts, opinions, cheers, or jeers from our living room to yours. What do you want to watch?
Bye.